Iran's Revolutionary Guard Corps claimed they have launched missiles and drone strikes at U.S. targets in Bahrain and Kuwait. Authorities in Jordan also said it shot down 3 incoming Iranian missiles, and the Kuwaiti army reported that Iranian hostile drone assaults were being repelled by its air defenses. Tehran's attacks come as U.S. forces carried out strikes against Iran for a 4th day in a row, lasting 7 hours. The U.S. also reimposed its blockade of Iranian ports early Wednesday over Tehran's attacks on vessels attempting to cross the Strait of Hormuz. According to local media, the Iran's Revolutionary Guards said its attacks were a reaction to American military actions and attempts to control the Strait of Hormuz. Meanwhile, earlier, U.S. President Donald Trump threatened to strike Iran's power plants if Tehran does not make a deal.
Next week comes the power plants. Next week comes the bridges. We're going to knock out all their power plants. We're going to knock out all their bridges unless they get to the table and negotiate.
The fragile ceasefire signed on the 17th of June has collapsed, with parties focusing on the control of the Strait of Hormuz. Trump said U.S. strikes on Iran would continue until he declared it's enough.
Ukraine's bid to join the European Union progressed closer towards reality on Tuesday, with EU affairs ministers formally approving the opening of Cluster 6. This cluster encompasses external relations and is considered a core theme within the EU accession negotiation framework.
For us, the opening of Cluster 6 is another a reminder of the meaning of common foreign security policy and common foreign and security policy in the current world, and Russia always revenge and always try to shadow the good news on our accession with another shelling that happened last night as well with ballistic missiles, so that in the area of common foreign and security policy, unity is so important.
Cluster 6 is also expected to open for Moldova on Tuesday, with the country's EU accession pathways linked. Until now, only one other cluster had been opened for Ukraine and Moldova, Cluster 1, which covers fundamentals and rule of law. The European Commission considers both nations to be technically ready to open all clusters, 6 in total, which means the next steps depend on the views of the bloc's 27 member governments. A range of accession chapters, which are portions of clusters, are also expected to be closed for Western Balkan frontrunners Montenegro and Albania in what has been dubbed an accession Super Tuesday.
France held its largest ever National Day parade, showcasing its military power and unity with allies on Tuesday, with Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky as guest of honor. In the meantime, European rearmament gathers pace in the face of Russia's war against Ukraine. 24 foreign heads of states and governments, including British Premier Keir Starmer and German Chancellor Friedrich Merz, were present. Some 500 soldiers from the so-called coalition of the willing of mainly European nations supporting Kyiv against Moscow were also marching. Symbolically, 25 Ukrainian soldiers were following the troops of coalition members. A record number of military personnel marched the traditional route between the Arc de Triomphe and the Place de la Concorde, including nearly 6,700 troops, 98 aircraft, 31 helicopters and 315 vehicles. This year's parade was to illustrate France's rearmament, France's strategic autonomy and Europe's strategic awakening, said a French presidential official. This year also marks 10 years after a truck driver ploughed into crowds leaving a Bastille Day fireworks display in the city of Nice, killing 86 people and wounding more than 400. The 14th of July marks the 1789 storming of the Bastille fortress in the French Revolution.
Residents of the southeastern French city of Nice marked 10 years since a terror attack killed 86 people and injured hundreds more during National Day celebrations. On 14 July 2016, a 19-ton cargo truck was deliberately driven into crowds of people celebrating Bastille Day on the Promenade des Anglais. Since then, France's National Day has also become a day of tribute to the victims who lost their lives. On Tuesday, French President Emmanuel Macron attended the country's largest ever military parade to mark both occasions in the capital Paris, which included a minute of silence. A slew of foreign dignitaries, including UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer, German Chancellor Friedrich Merz, and Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky attended the parade at Macron's invitation. The Élysée Palace said a special ceremony had been organized on the far end of the promenade where the attack occurred in Nice and where olive branches will be laid in a symbolic moment in the presence of the victims' families and local officials. Domestic politicians, including far-right National Rally leader Marine Le Pen, were present at the event. Macron also announced on Tuesday that FIFA has approved Paris's request to observe a minute of silence ahead of France and Spain's World Cup semi-final clash to honor the victims. The wildfires ravaging the Fontainebleau forest could be brought under control in the coming hours, according to local officials. Seine-et-Marne Prefect Pierre Horry said on Tuesday that the two fires are currently being contained by firefighters and that the next step will be to fully secure them. The improving situation is partly due to more favorable weather conditions. Winds, which have significantly weakened since the end of the night, are now making it easier for the hundreds of firefighters deployed on the ground to perform their duty. The main blaze, which broke out late Sunday afternoon, has already spread across more than 2,000 hectares. A second fire that started on Monday shortly before 3 p.m. near Fontainebleau destroyed an additional 300 to 400 hectares within just a few hours, according to authorities. Earlier, top officials, including Interior Minister Laurent Nunez, detailed that they suspect the fires were possibly an act of arson, which was confirmed when 2 arrests were made. Fontainebleau's public prosecutor said the 2 detained men admitted responsibility for starting the fire on Tuesday. The first, a young man born in 2007, who is a volunteer firefighter in the town, admitted to deliberately setting fire to dry twigs using a lighter and gasoline. The second, also born in 2007, acknowledged accidentally starting a fire after throwing away a cigarette butt.
A number of people were killed in a fire at a building in the center of Brussels on Tuesday. The fire erupted on the second floor of the Oxy Tower building, a major renovation project in the heart of the Belgian capital. Roughly 250 construction workers were believed to have been on site at the time, according to local media. Firefighters rescued a number of workers, but authorities believe 6 are still missing. The blaze erupted in the morning and was seemingly quickly under control. However, the fire resulted in damage to 2 elevator shafts before reaching an underground section of the building, igniting a second fire. Construction workers had been working in the shafts at the time. Firefighters managed to open one of the lifts and found several bodies inside. It remains unclear whether more bodies will be found in the second lift. It's not the first time a fire broke out at the building under construction. In April 2024, a fire broke out on its roof but did not result in any injuries.
A US Immigration and Customs Enforcement agent fatally shot a motorist in Maine on Monday, marking the second fatal shooting involving ICE in a week. A neighbor identified the man who was killed as Juan Sebastian Guerrero, a 26-year-old native of Colombia who was authorized to work in the US, according to immigrant rights groups. The ICE officer fired his weapon, fearing for public safety, as the victim attempted to flee the scene, the Department of Homeland Security said in a statement. The DHS said ICE agents encountered the man while, quote, conducting targeted surveillance on the last known address of an illegal alien with a final order of removal. But independent Senator Angus King of Maine told local media that the person that was killed was not the person that they were seeking, quoting a conversation he had had with Secretary of Homeland Security Mark Wayne Mullin. King has called for an unvarnished, transparent investigation. A community vigil was held on Monday evening. The shooting comes after an ICE officer shot and killed a Mexican man in his work van last week in Houston. This is at least the 9th death since President Donald Trump began his immigration crackdown.
Spain are through to the FIFA World Cup final after producing a composed and clinical performance to beat France 2-0 on Tuesday in Dallas. The win dashes the hopes of France, who were considered one of the clear favourites to lift the 2026 FIFA World Cup. Lamine Yamal's pace proved decisive in breaking the deadlock, with the winger winning a penalty after a challenge in the box. Mikel Oyarzabal made no mistake from the spot to put Spain ahead midway through the first half. With a disciplined defence neutralising Mbappe and France's powerful attacking unit, La Roja ran the show in the middle of the park and added a second goal in the second half. The result left football fans across France disappointed, spoiling their Bastille Day party, while Spanish fans jetted out in the streets to celebrate.
I have no choice but to support England now. I hope for the best for them. I wish they beat Argentina, since they are sworn enemies. To be honest, it won't be the same.
Han jugado muy bien. Y bueno, se hizo todo lo que se pudo, a pesar de que el equipo de Francia ha sido muy bueno también, ¿eh? Así que nos vemos en la próxima y a ganar y viva España.
Spain will on Sunday face the winner of the second semi-final match between England and Argentina, with the hopes of winning its second FIFA World Cup trophy.